Egypt has delivered a strong warning to Israel, declaring that any attempt to forcibly displace Palestinians from Gaza into Egyptian territory would cross a red line and pose grave risks to regional stability. The statement reflects Cairo's deep concern that the ongoing Israeli military campaign could escalate into a broader crisis with direct implications for Egypt's sovereignty and security. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has emphasized that Gaza is Palestinian land, and its people must remain there. He has rejected what he described as attempts to liquidate the Palestinian issue through displacement, stressing that Egypt will not accept being used as an alternative homeland for Palestinians. Officials in Cairo argue that forcing Palestinians into the Sinai Peninsula would not only undermine Palestinian statehood but also create serious security challenges for Egypt. The issue of displacement has been circulating since the intensification of Israel's operations in Gaza. Reports and policy discussions suggesting that certain Israeli officials have entertained the idea of pushing Palestinians into Sinai have raised alarm across the Arab world. Although Israel denies having official plans for such action, the speculation has not subsided. Egyptian diplomats insist that even the suggestion of such a move is unacceptable and a violation of international law. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza has intensified these concerns. With thousands of civilians killed, tens of thousands injured, and much of the enclave's infrastructure destroyed, the population faces catastrophic conditions. Hospitals are overwhelmed, food and water are scarce, and hundreds of thousands have been displaced internally. The Rafah crossing, which links Gaza to Egypt, has become the main entry point for humanitarian aid, but Cairo has resisted calls to open it for mass civilian evacuations. Egyptian officials maintain that allowing large-scale displacement would risk turning a temporary humanitarian measure into a permanent demographic shift. Egypt's position is also rooted in history. Previous Arab-Israeli wars created one of the world's largest refugee crises, with millions of Palestinians displaced across the Middle East. Cairo fears that a new wave of forced migration would permanently undermine the Palestinian struggle for statehood and repeat the cycle of dispossession. Egypt is determined not to allow Sinai to become a substitute for Gaza or Palestine. Jordan has echoed Egypt's position, with King Abdullah II warning against attempts to push Palestinians into Jordan or Egypt. Both countries argue that such moves could destabilize the entire region. The United Nations and international human rights groups have also voiced concern, stressing that forced displacement under military pressure violates the Geneva Conventions and could constitute a war crime. Security concerns weigh heavily on Egypt's calculations. The Sinai Peninsula has long been a hotspot for extremist groups linked to al-Qaeda and ISIS. Egyptian authorities fear that relocating hundreds of thousands of Palestinians into the region could worsen instability and create new opportunities for radicalization. There are also fears that Israeli military operations could extend across the border if displaced Palestinians were relocated into Sinai, pulling Egypt directly into the conflict. Despite these tensions, Egypt continues to serve as a key mediator. Cairo has hosted delegations from Hamas, the Palestinian Authority, and Israel in efforts to negotiate ceasefires and humanitarian pauses. Egyptian intelligence services have played a central role in brokering deals for hostage releases and aid deliveries. Yet officials warn that any attempt to pursue displacement would jeopardize mediation and erode what little trust exists between the parties. The United States has sought to reassure Egypt that it does not support displacement, emphasizing its commitment to humanitarian protection and a two-state solution. European leaders, including France and Germany, have also backed Cairo's stance, warning that forced relocation could destabilize not only Egypt and Jordan but also trigger wider migration pressures across the Middle East and Europe. The phrase, red line, used by Egyptian officials suggests potential consequences if Israel were to attempt displacement. While Cairo has not publicly detailed what actions it might take, analysts suggest that possibilities could include suspending security cooperation, freezing diplomatic ties, or rallying Arab states to exert political and economic pressure. In an extreme scenario, Egypt might even reconsider the terms of the 1979 Camp David Accords, though such a step would mark a dramatic shift in regional dynamics. For Egypt, the issue is not only about defending Palestinian rights but also about protecting its own national security and regional influence. Cairo's leadership sees itself as a guardian of Palestinian sovereignty and an anchor of stability in the Arab world. Allowing displacement, Egyptian officials argue, would not only weaken Palestine but also open Egypt to profound strategic risks. As the war in Gaza continues, Egypt's stance underscores the limits of military solutions and the dangers of demographic engineering. By drawing a clear boundary, Cairo has signaled that the displacement of Gazans is not up for negotiation. The defense of Palestinian presence in Gaza, in Egypt's view, is both a moral obligation and a matter of survival.